The following information and opinions expressed on the Sweet Divorce podcast do not constitute, nor are intended to be taken as legal advice. All content is generalized and for informational purposes only. Please contact our legal team or your own attorney for advice specific to your particular case. Thank you.
Hello, and welcome to this episode of Sweet Divorce podcast. I am partner Rosario Burgos Santoyo, and this is my partner,
Gretel Smith.
Today, we are going to be talking to our two associates, Gerard Arcilla
And Trent Scheurman.
They're going to be discussing the different stages of relationships.
We'll help pick up the pieces one by one. Information straight from the source. It's Sweet Divorce.
Hi, my name is Gerard Arcilla.
And I'm Trent Scheurman.
So today, I think a good topic would be to discuss different stages in relationships. I actually interviewed some people I know, actually are all attorneys and they're married. So these scenarios differ in certain ways. I think the first scenario we can lay out is when a couple that I know are basically married for 3 years, which I say is relatively new. They have no children. So a way to describe that is early stages of marriage.
We actually have a theme for it. It's called honeymoon, but for how long?
Yes, that would be good. Honeymoon for how long? Because trials and tribulations may come later.
As in any relationship.
Yes, and let's segment the scenario two. This is a little longer marriage, 8 years and one child, and this relationship there is separation on the rise. Things are turbulent, so they may be separating soon. They're trying to work it out. So this would be a scenario where there are problems and they're trying to work through them, and who knows if they will navigate towards a reconciliation or go through a divorce. Who knows?
And this one we have a theme. It's called "Money Doesn't Buy Happiness."
Exactly.
And we'll explore that later once we get to that scenario.
Right. Lastly is my friend who has two children, marriage of 7 years. Both of these parents have full-time jobs. I think the theme here is grandparents do help a lot with the care of the children. A good support staff makes it a lot easier to raise children, especially if they're full-time jobs.
And this last theme we have is "It Takes a Village."
Right. So let's get into it. Scenario one, and I had done the interview. We discussed things as how is marriage going? Are there any potential issues that are on the rise already? And what are future plans here? One thing we did start with is topic of children. Do you want to have children? And the general consensus was yes, maybe not right now. There are things they want to do first, like travel the world, enjoy, things like that.
Are these what do they do for work, Gerard? Are they young professionals, or are they kind of getting their lives together still?
Yes. So they are
Yeah.
professionals. The husband is an attorney, the wife is a dentist. And those are pretty busy jobs. The dentist has her own practice, I believe, and then the attorney works for a firm. But that does leave them a lot of, I'd say, disposable money to travel because there are no children. That's obviously a very expensive thing sometimes to have.
Well, yeah. And also, sorry to cut you off, but as
No
young
problem.
professionals too, you work hard, but you also want to be able to play hard a little bit too.
Exactly.
You don't want to rush right into having kids, especially because spend your whole life in school and studying to become something, and then you don't want to immediately just stack on a bunch of kids onto that too. So you want to travel the world, see what's out there.
Yeah, and I think this is really what that honeymoon stage is for. Just a little further information and context here. These were college sweethearts, so they were actually very attuned to one another before, moving in together, or being married. So they probably know each other's habits like the back of their hand. So we're talking about 10 to 15-year relationship. I'm sure that in this situation, I know about you and your friends, they probably have a very good balance. So I think been pretty stable.
So for this relationship in the scenario, they're both 34. So they have their lives figured out. Some say life starts at 40, but for some it starts earlier. For me, a lot of my friends in their relationships, they have long-term relationships, but only one or two are married now. Funny enough, the ones that I know that are married are attorneys, so go figure.
That seems to be the recurring theme.
Yeah,
they are people we know.
The biggest problem that I've seen in relationships for me right now in my age group is just hashing out the time to spend with each other, because they're both professionals. And then if you're working, 40, 45, 50-hour work weeks, when you get home, you don't really want to have the date night or anything like that. You just kind of want to blow off some steam and, maybe go hang out with your friends, because if you're, you always come home to the same person, and you get comfortable being in that situation. You don't really take, you take them for granted instead of actually putting in the work with the relationship, which is, I mean, we're all guilty of it, but that's another issue that I've seen.
Right. And would you say, maybe in your age bracket, that are their parents pressuring them for children, anything like that? Or is it expected?
It's funny enough, it's reversed. You think it'd come from the girl's side, but a lot of it's from the guy's side. Yeah, which I don't know why. With the friends that I know, it's a lot of them. They want the girl to give the guy consistency and kind of make him calm down from his the rambunctious phase, right? Because you're in your mid-20s, like I was saying, you want to go see the world. You're invincible still.
Exactly. That is a valid thing.
You haven't really had too much go wrong yet.
Yeah. People want to have their fun before marriage. And that's precisely what's happening in scenario 1 with my friends here. They know that having children's around the corner, with their ages, it would make the most sense to have a child within the next few years. So it seems like they're really getting that travel out of the way. Some things that they've told me too, in terms of tips and advice before marriage. Right. What have you seen with your friends?
Like I said, well, a lot of it's the bill splitting, because a lot of my friends I know are from law school or from just they met each other in their workplaces. So they have a lot of just young professionals. And I mean, with California's, rent and everything being so high, and that if you want to go in and buy a house, good luck right now. That's the only way they can really afford to live in the places, if they split the bills. So that's why that adds additional pressure on relationships as well too. Just in terms of, I mean, if you intertwine your lives and your finances, things can go wrong real fast.
And just like some of my friends, they had noted that the first thing they had done together jointly, like after their marriage, is probably combine their money to buy a house. And obviously in California, once you're married, they have rights to that house, both of them together. But it sounds like they enjoyed having kind of a shared asset together. That's like the financial aspect is an asset, but obviously building a home together, that's softer.
And growth and the physical home as well as the spiritual home is where the heart is, but it's also where your money is.
Yeah, exactly. Like you're investing money in this property that, it's a valuable thing that will generate more money. So, hopefully they make it in the future, but if that is divorce, that is a critical asset that would be divided.
Right. And also as well too, it goes to the saying your spouse is your partner, and you want to know who you're getting in business with before you really settle down and hunker down with your partner.
Right. So that's pretty much a gist of scenario 1. It's a pretty early marriage. I mean, not too early. It's been 3 years, but children are around the corner, and they do acknowledge that this might be a hardship, right? But you don't really know until you try.
Right. So, I mean, that could be a great way to sum up number 1. You don't really know until you try. There's no need to rush into things. Feel out your partner, let them feel you out, and hopefully you guys can both move forward and create a home together.
And then just one more last point here. You can really see there might be a shift of maybe it's just how people are going forward with marriage, but these two are professionals. They really chose to wait a long time before getting married. They didn't have children in their 20s, but they're pretty much in a pretty stable financial position. Not everyone's like that. I don't know about your friend, if they're the same way.
A lot of them are. Well, a lot of my friends, the young professionals, they don't have kids either. Yeah, it's just with the time commitment between the four. It's once you have your kid, you got to focus on the couple of years to raise them, so then they're at least become self-sufficient to where you can leave them alone for a few hours. I don't have any children of my own. I have a girlfriend. I don't have a long-term spouse yet, though. So that's just to give you an idea where I'm coming from as well, too.
And same with me too. I would go with the same rationale there. I'm a little older than him, but I have a long-term girlfriend, no children, and we talk together. We're friends. We definitely put a value on saving money and being financially ready for any big decisions to come.
Children are expensive.
They are, right? It's not it keeps people together, but it's a long-term obligation.
Yeah, not always for the best either.
At least an 18-year obligation, more or less, right?
Right, exactly.
We would know. We get a lot of child support cases. So moving on to scenario 2. We saw how a good scenario, a good marriage can be on one side, but this is another scenario where it's a little different. There are some marital problems and some trial separations. This marriage has been an 8-year marriage. There's one child, a 6-year-old child. These parties around a 34-year-old male and a 37-year-old female. Right now, I think there are trying a separation period, and they've tried marital therapy. That's usually what the first thing people like suggest to do. In some cases, it doesn't always work.
Yeah. Like I said, you got to know your partner. Sometimes you got to know yourself before you know your partner. And people get into relationships before they even know themselves. And I mean, people change. So, you know, who you married is not usually who you end up going to bed with after 10 years.
Yeah.
So you got to learn to either adapt or something's got to give. Either you got to give, they got to give, or the relationship has to give. So
Yeah.
that's an unfortunate reality of just living life. And like I said before, once you get past your invincible phase and realize not everything's so black and white, you're not always invincible. Relationships aren't always invincible either.
Yeah. And I'd say the number one word for, I think in general, is compromise. I think that's like the most important word when it comes to making a marriage work. And, you know, we see this with our cases all the time. Some people try to compromise and they just can't have a middle ground. Whereas some people say they try to compromise, but they really don't give anything up. I've seen both happen, but there needs to be a point where, do you really value your happiness, or do you want to try to make it work for maybe the kids, maybe the family, maybe for, you know, the outward appearance of friends and family? It really depends what you're willing to do. But I think sometimes it is unfair if you try to compromise all the time and there's no like return on investment. There's no meeting of the middle.
Right. Well, then it's not really a natural compromise. I'm just thinking of a husband and a wife, and the husband makes the joke that we made a compromise. She got everything I wanted. I got the bill. You know,
And it can work sometimes. But another saying is happy wife, happy life. It has this insinuation that you have to give up everything that you value to basically have the marriage work. And, you know, obviously these gender roles can also be flipped. It can be like a woman doing or a girl doing all the compromise and the guys just, you know, not doing anything.
Takers and givers.
Yeah, takers and givers, right? In this scenario, you know, they did marital therapy. It didn't work. They really tried, you know, listening to each other, like trying to change their behavior. But I think in this scenario, I think one party did a lot more than the other. My friend, who I had known, just found all mostly the fault with themselves. But I think it should be a balance. Like there should be a tit for tat here. Maybe not one party is really guilty of this, but my feeling is that just one party was saying they were wrong without any accountability for the other.
Right. And that goes back to like backhanded apologies too, where it's, I'm sorry, but you did this, or I'm sorry, but you did that. And then also to don't forgive someone and then bring it up in an argument 2 weeks later. It doesn't, you know, how you didn't really forgive someone if you're still using it against them. A lot of that comes from just being mature and sincere and trying to make the relationship work. Sometimes you just get caught up in the trenches of a relationship, and it's always good to just take a step back, whether that's maybe they do need time apart, just to realize if where they are together is where they want to be. In this case, it's not. So obviously they've taken some steps to try to remedy the situation in terms of the marital counseling. For the next steps, though, do you think they should just do more marital counseling, or do you have a better, because you have a better idea of kind of where they are? It's a husband and wife, correct?
That's right.
So is the husband, is he the taker or is he the giver?
I think he's the giver. In my opinion. I
Uh-huh.
think the other one, there just might be a kind of, and this happens a lot too. Maybe they're just finding a reason to hang their hat on for a divorce. Some people think they want to try to work it out. They might have in the back of their mind their decision already made. And I think that's kind of where this juncture is. So, you know, of course, in this situation, you can always try to have it work together for the kids, but when is forcing it just feel unnatural. Sometimes feelings have to take its course.
Right. And like, I think the good theme for that one, we started with money doesn't always buy happiness, because both the couples are the couple's well off. But I think I'm the best one that I get is the really strong word is compromise. You can't, if you compromise, it has to be a true compromise. It can't just be one person taking and the other person giving.
Right, because you can even have like 10 years of tolerance after that in a relationship. if you guys hate each other's guts, that's not really healthy. And how does that impact the children, the formation of their minds? They'll see another relationship where, sure, on paper their parents stayed together, but if they hated each other and there was just a lot of animosity, just even going to bed, that's not so healthy either. So maybe sticking together is not always the best. So just food for thought here, right?
Right.
This brings us to the last scenario. So this one was actually the result of what's called a shotgun marriage. You familiar with this term?
Yeah, a little bit.
It's basically when you have a child outside wedlock and the marriage comes after, just to, maybe not save face, maybe that's a little too harsh, but it's a logical step next if you have a child together.
Right. To bring the union full.
Yes. And whether you're prepared or not, it happens a lot. In this case, I think it did work out. There are two children here, two males, 7 years old, 3 years old, and then the parents are, I'd say, 34 and 37. These are both professionals too. One's an attorney, one does in pharmaceutical sales. But something about this one has a very strong cultural aspect, and this can change between families. There's a lot of grandparent involvement here.
Okay.
Yep. So the grandparents help raise the children while the parents are at work. And I think we've seen these scenarios before. It's a really great aid because it saves money for childcare and it keeps the family whole together.
Do the grandparents live in the home, the marital
home? One pair does, the other pair doesn't.
Okay.
But they're all within basically the same 10-minute radius of the drive.
Okay.
So there's a lot of flexibility. But when you have that many family members parenting, you could also butt heads too, because you have to remember these are also the parents of the actual parents of the children.
Right.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, it could get contentious because,
oh yeah,
like you said, the theme was it takes a village, but
like at what point is it the biological parent should make the decisions? But there is, in these types of families where it can be based on religion or culture. The patriarch or the matriarch, so the grandparents, really have the final say, and maybe getting out of line with a child. Maybe the grandparents able to override decisions for the grandchild. So it depends. There's a power dynamic here, but not always.
So how would you suggest to navigate that? Because that's something I personally didn't have, but I was just raised in a household with a father and a mother, and then my sister beating me up all the time.
Yeah,
kidding, of course.
That happens a lot.
Yeah.
And I could code this the different way a little bit because my grandparents were pretty involved in my life. I wouldn't say there was like a power struggle between my grandparents and my parents. In my family, the parents had the absolute last say. The grandparents were just there for support, things like that too. But I would certainly be a different person if I didn't have my grandparents' influence, because they really did help me a lot when my parents were at work all the time.
Yeah.
So it's a really great resource for those families that have the availability to do that, because more money for the family means more opportunity, but also so everyone needs relief,
right?
Because working a full-time job, it's very hard to also then raise a child full-time after that, or even like during that. That's why you need help.
I think the best takeaway from that would be have set roles. Understand, what's grandma and grandpa, what are they there for? What are they doing? They're there to support. They're also there to help raise, but they're not there to be the final say. You're the parent. You got to take responsibility for the child. Don't always push them on grandma and grandpa, even though they're happy to help. It is your responsibility at the end of the day to make sure that your child or children are raised in the best way possible.
And let me put it this way: for some unfortunate event, if this doesn't work out, a divorce and these children would be revolving mainly around the parents, not the grandparents. Grandparents, maybe they can ask for some rights. They'd want an interest in seeing them. But at the end of the day, they're not the central people here. It's the parents of the children and the children themselves. So having clear defined boundaries can be a good thing, but that might not always be necessary if there's this natural function and progress of having a family all work together. So that's not always a problem.
And that's the thing with family too. It's never black and white. It's always shades of gray. So we could talk about scenarios, but they might always be applicable to you. So just understand that if you need help or anything like that, we're always here if you want to give us a call, and we appreciate your time. And I think I think the podcast has been great, Gerard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for speaking with me today.
Yeah, of course, man.
So that's it for now. My name's Gerard Arcilla,
And I'm Trent Scheurman.
and we'll see you next time.
Thank you.
In the silence of the night, echoes of a fading fight. Two hearts once intertwined, now severed.